Okay, today we're out at the lake in Minnesota here. We're going to install a weed roller. I hauled it out, just my 5.5 foot box on my pickup here. I was able to haul out the weed roller. This one has an extra 7 foot extension with it too. Everything required with the weed roller to install it will be in these boxes. We've got permit in hand. Their permit allows them to go 28 feet total, and it goes on the far end of the dock on the corner post. We'll get everything unloaded and move on down to the lake shore and start going through it. Before we even get started, we should check out the shore power. You'll want 110 volts down at the shore here. It needs to be ground fault. You want to be safe down here because it is in an outdoor environment. So I picked up a tester at just a local hardware store. So we'll just plug it in here, make sure everything comes up good. It says everything's correct. We can push the button here and it kicked out the ground fault, so everything's good. Well, let's start with getting the drive head opened up here. The owner's manual does come in this kit. This box here, 2 rollers. And the third box is going to have, there's a roller, hardware, our shore power comes in here, 2 dock mounts, 75 foot of cord, flex coupler, and then the coupler to hook up to the gearbox on the weed roller. I've got the shore power unpackaged here. This is what powers up the weed roller. It's got the 110 to plug into the outlet, and then this end here goes to an extension cord down to the weed roller. Weed roller's safe. We convert the 110 down to 28 volts AC, so it's safe power going out on the dock. And we've got our manual. So we've got everything unpackaged now. So you can go into the manual. There is an assembly instructions starting on section 2 here. Start with putting together the rollers. Go step by step how to put the mount on the dock, mounting the weed roller to the dock, and then mounting the rollers to the weed roller. Okay, so let's get things going here. We'll take the rollers down the dock here and line them up. This is the coupler that goes to the weed roller itself. This end goes to the weed roller, and this end goes to that first tube. So I'll carry that out first. We're going to start with 2 7-footers, and then we'll have a flex coupler between the next 7-footer and another flex coupler before the next 7-footer. Okay, everything's laid out, so we'll just start right here. We've got a 9/16 open end and a 9/16 socket on a ratchet. We just need 4 of these bolts and nuts. And these are lock nuts, so you can spin them on real easy and then they will get tighter. That way they don't loosen when they're under the water on you. Okay, the next connection is just like the first one here. Okay, and we'll move down to the flex couplers. Flex coupler, it gives it flex. As this rolls through the water, this is the point where this tube would be able to flex up and down on the end. Standard with the weed roller, you get 1 flex coupler, and in this case, they've chose to put 1 more in. So here we have to take out existing bolts. And if you look from this end down here, there's a plate on here, and this weed roller tube will line right up with that plate. So those are the 4 bolts that we have to take out. You can see how this tube moves back and forth. It's able to flex up and down because of that rubber joint in there. Okay, and then we've got our last flex coupler. We'll put this one in between the last two tubes. When you get the kit, this flex coupler just comes like this, and so you install it to both ends. I guess the tube we did prior, that was already installed on, and that was when you order an additional coupler. They come installed on the tube already. Works a little easier to put that plate on first, then you're not lining up everything at one time. Okay, the rollers are all put together. We'll move on to the next step. Okay, our standard dock mount hardware is here. The standard mounts, the U-bolts for attaching it to the dock. I also laid out here, it's an extra large dock mount brackets here. This is for when you have a bigger dock post. This will go on the back side of your post. This goes on the front side. And we've got all the hardware to attach it together. Instead of using U-bolts, they use this style. And this is all used where bigger dock posts and then where you have wheels in the way. If where you're gonna hook the weed roller to, you've got a wheel out there. This gives you more length to get it out past that wheel. We're gonna install our brackets here for mounting the weed roller. We're going out on this corner bracket here. So this one here has a notch in it. So with the corner post, fits right on there solid. And then this U-clip here, everything will mount real tight. So we're gonna mount our first one up pretty high there, and then the second one at about 18 inches below that. Once you get things tightened up there, we'll lower the weed roller down in, get it into the brackets, and then we've got bolts and sleeves here that we'll put in, and then these nuts here that'll lock the weed roller in place. Okay, so we'll put the weed roller down in. I'm gonna go right into the bracket there and just slide it down. Okay. And why don't you throw a bolt in that top one? Need that and that. We're installed. I'll turn the gearbox so shaft is facing that way, and then we can get rollers. We've got the drive head installed now, so we're going to grab our rollers and we will float them over here and install them on the weed roller. So the weed roller, the rollers here, they're full of air right now. Each one has 2 plastic caps on them. So once you get them installed, you could pull those caps out and fill them full of water. So, but right now it really makes it easy for getting them out here, getting them installed. Before we slide that on the shaft, there's a plastic washer that goes on first next to the gearbox, and then that'll slide on, and then we've got 2 bolts to put through. What we're doing is the weed roller, the shaft from the gearbox output is below the water level, probably a foot, so we just need to get some water in the tube or push the tube down to get it straight enough to get hooked up here. Without the caps, the silt and sand and everything will get into your tubes. If you have a real silty or mucky bottom, you can leave some air in them when you first start too. That way they'll kind of float above some of that stuff, and they will eventually fill with water anyway because those plugs aren't completely tight. So over time they'll be full of water. But you know, to get you started, you may want to leave some air in them. Even with the tubes filled with water, as long as the tubes are in the water and they're filled with water, the only thing you're lifting when you're moving them is the aluminum, so they're not very heavy. So when it comes to removing this end of the season, what I like to do with mine is I'll unhook it at the weed roller and I'll float these tubes or carry these tubes up to the shore, just keeping them in the water. If they're just under the water, they'll come along just fine. Once I get up into the real shallow, I'll unbolt mine and pop the caps out. I'll take in each individual 7-foot tube and just stand it upright, let the water run out of it. Then it's easy to take out of the lake. You don't want to ever try to take them out full of water because they're really heavy at that point. And the caps have to be put back in, otherwise the tubes will fill full of silt and sand. Once they do that, they're near impossible to move around. They get so heavy. Okay, the weed roller tubes are attached to the gearbox, so we're going to lower it down now, just gently to the bottom there. So we'll just have to loosen up these two T-bolts. Now I have had where if there's excessive muck or you have a lot of elevation change or something, I've actually left mine off the bottom by about a foot before. Just so it could work back and forth easier. It's not too soft where you're standing, is it?
No, it's kind of hard actually.
Okay, yeah, let's just tighten it up right there. Okay, so we're on the bottom now. I'm just going to look at the sensors in here just to get an idea where we're at. Right now, there's facing that way and facing that way, so I'm just going to pull this one back a little. So the sensors under the hood there's our right sensor. Magnet is right above that right sensor right now because the roller's all the way that direction. There's a left sensor which you're looking at now, and you can adjust those whatever direction you need to in order, once the magnet comes there, it stops and it reverses the other direction. Okay, so we're right where we're gonna start. So now we can run power cord out here. We'll set up the power supply on the shore. And when we get back out here again, we'll be able to plug it in and get things started. We're ready for the test run with the weed roller. I've got the power cord out here, set the arc, get everything working the way it should. Then we can kind of button up where the wires are. I'll keep the cord up out of the water here. And then this is just a twist lock. Once you get it pushed together, just give it a little twist. And we have power and we have action. And right now it's moving to the left here. You'll see the weed roller doesn't move real fast. It's just a slow and steady. And it's just that agitation of it rolling back and forth time after time. That'll get rid of the weeds. Well, our weed roller is installed. We've set our sensors, the left sensor we have, so the weed roller comes right up to this side of the dock, and the right sensor we've got set to come up to this side. Now there are some other features on this smart switch, and we can stop the weed roller at a certain location by hitting this stop park button. If you hit it once, it lights up the left sensor. Once the weed roller gets all the way to that left sensor, it will stop there. If you want to stop at the right sensor, you push it one more time, illuminating the right one, and it'll stop on the right sensor. If you want to just park it in any location, just hit that a third time, and there it's parked. So then we want to start again, push the button, and away it goes. Now there is another feature. You can set it to automatically run for 12 hours and then turn off. And you do that by pushing this button for 3 seconds and holding it, and it'll set up to run for that 12 hours. The other button here, there's a reverse switch. We're going to the right now. Hit the button once, it'll reverse itself to the left. So once everything's set, it's automatic. It's going to run back and forth. It's going to clean up the lake bottom for you. One more note, we're here in Minnesota, so you do need a sticker saying you have a permit to run your weed roller, and the DNR wants that placed on the lake side of your weed roller so they can see it if they come rolling by with their boat. So thanks for watching the weed roller install. Hopefully it helps you when you're putting yours in.